Adam, when you have a hurricane or a snowstorm or any kind of storm that's approaching an area where you have employees, what are things that you ought to be thinking about and doing?
Yeah, so this question inevitably comes up every year. Being in South Florida and representing a number of businesses here, and also hearing from businesses that have operations in other states that may be affected by other types of storms. So the first thing you need to do is be aware of the threat of a storm. Pay attention, give your employees enough information so that they can make their own arrangements at home and potentially think about, should we be giving them some time off to make those arrangements so that, they're not working up until moments before the storm hits, in which case they can be, really affected. So, getting ahead of the storm and telling your employees to make arrangements and potentially giving them some time off. That's one thing to think about. Number two is preserving information and data. If a storm hits really bad, then you could lose some important data, and you want to make sure that you back it up on a separate hard drive, or if you have physical copies, make sure it's stored electronically as well. Just because you never know how bad the storm can be and if it's going to affect your work site or the work sites where you have employees. So you want to make sure you protect your data, protect your property as best you can. Number three is identify the insurance that you may need to use if there is a bad situation, so that you can take action immediately to recoup your losses. And then as far as like, when do we bring employees back? Because that's another question I get. It's really going to depend on how bad the storm is, because you don't want to put your employees through very difficult travel arrangements to return, let's say, to a work site if they're going to have to travel through a flood or where there's broken trees or debris of any kind. So really try and assess the situation, be as flexible as you can during post-storm, especially if people are really affected in certain areas of the country. And then as far as compensation goes, exempt employees, the rule is they get paid if they do any work. Doesn't matter how much or how little in any given week. Okay. That's generally the rule. Non-exempt is the opposite. You only get paid when you work. Having said that, if people are physically unable to work, or they're trying their best to work from home, just try and be flexible as best you can during this time. Because one thing that I always remember is that people really remember how their employers treat them during these challenging times. So if you're affected by a storm, or you're on the brink of being hit by a storm, do as much careful planning as you can. Communicate with your employees as much as you can, and just remain flexible as best you can as well.